Pluto in retrograde, the rising phoenix. So, welcome back to the healer set. Today, that's what we're going over. Unlike Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde, which you can check out the videos here at this playlist, Pluto is very different. There isn't a list of things that it covers per se. It's a lot more broad, kind of overarching. Now, before I get into that, you are probably wondering why I insist on doing these retrograde videos. And here's the thing. You do interact with humans, right? Like you're out there every day dealing with people, whether it's friends or families, coworkers, etc. Like you are out there interacting with people. And that's what these videos are for. They're to help you, and they are to help you pinpoint patterns. Why? Because we probably all have that person in our life, friend or family, coworker, whoever, that lives and dies by astrology. Well, maybe not dies, but they swear by it. They love it. They can explain it to you. They can go on and on and on. But the other thing is, probably as a person, you notice patterns. People, especially if you are an untrained psychic or you have any of the clairs, if you are an empath, you probably have people that are coming to you asking you questions or just unloading information onto you, whether you want them to or not. And this will be doubly so if you are actually taking clients. So if you're an energy healer, if you do any kind of divination, if you're a medium and you're doing readings for people, and I'm sure there's a host of other things in between that I am overlooking, that all of a sudden maybe you're seeing these overarching patterns that arise. So that's why I do these videos if you are noticing patterns and you're not really sure what's up. So this is just kind of a stopping point, a kind of overview of everything to give you a place to start looking if you do want to go deeper into this. Now, that's the whole point of these videos, and if it looks like I'm moving up and down, I'm working on eye contact. I'm not 100% sure if I should be looking at the screen or at the camera, so I apologize. But yeah, so that's the point of these retrograde videos, is to give you information so that when you are dealing with patterns, you can get an idea of what's up. Now, there are some things to note about Pluto in retrograde. It is a planet, again. I had to double check that because I was like, is it not? What? And it is considered an outer planet. And what the outer planets do is they take obviously much longer to go around the Earth. A stopping point, a kind of overview of everything to give you a place to start looking if you do want to go deeper into this. Now, that's the whole point of these videos, and if it looks like I'm moving up and down, I'm working on eye contact. I'm not 100% sure if I should be looking at the screen or at the camera, so I apologize. But yeah, so that's the point of these retrograde videos, is to give you information so that when you are dealing with patterns, you can get an idea of what's up. Now, there are some things to note about Pluto in retrograde. It is a planet, again. I had to double check that because I was like, is it not? What? And it is considered an outer planet. And what the outer planets do is they take obviously much longer to go around the Earth. So I think so. So Pluto goes into retrograde once a year for 5 to 6 months. Because in our case, it started on May 1st of 2023, and it will end October 10th. So it's just shy of, I believe, 6 months, 5.5, give or take. So, and it does this every year. Now, one of the things with Pluto in retrograde is that it takes 12 to 20 years to go through one zodiac sign. And what made this specific one interesting in all the articles I brought up is that it's oscillating between Capricorn and Aquarius before Pluto will completely settle into Aquarius. So yes, we are literally, at least by Pluto, going into an age of Aquarius. And it's the first time it's been in Aquarius in 200 years. So these are not just, these are literally generational patterns when some of these outer lying planets go through the zodiac houses. And from everything else I read, it sounded like each zodiac will be affected differently, which was kind of similar to Venus and Mercury, but also very different because they flat out said some of you may never experience anything and some of you will really find a very dramatic transformation. Another thing that was also really interesting is that with Pluto and quite possibly with the other outer lying planets, you have a collective shift. So it's not just an individual thing, it is societies as a whole start to shift. We may get into that later. I kind of waffled back and forth about whether or not to include it. So, but where to start? So, if that's all true, where do we start with this? So, one thing that was brought up is that the cardinal signs will be more greatly affected. What are the cardinal signs? They're Capricorn, Libra, Aries, and Pisces. So, these signs might actually be feeling this a lot more deeply. Now, it could also be that Scorpios who are co-ruled by Pluto also are experience things, but maybe not as much. And one thing that was mentioned in multiple articles was that you kind of have to look up on your own terms and see possibly it where any of these signs maybe fall in your birth chart, how you will be affected, if you will be affected at all. So that is something worth noting. And you can do with that what you will, it's fine. So, in order to understand what happens with Pluto in retrograde, like anything else, you have to understand what does Pluto control in the first place. So, Pluto is named obviously for the god of the underworld. So, that means that it deals with a lot the shadow self. A lot of the things that we internalize, generally you might hear it said it's the occult, it's the mysteries, it's the you're always looking for the things underneath. You're always looking at kind of the mysterious, the unknown, whatnot. And that's kind of what this is, but only for in Pluto and retrograde, you are now internally looking into these things. So you're looking to release, renew, review a lot of personality traits, toxic traits, problem traits, things that you want to fix, which is why it's referred to as the rising phoenix, wanting to make a better self because you want to identify a lot of these patterns that you can release. They don't serve you anymore to try and make you a better person. So that's what that's what Pluto in retrograde makes you do is it makes you look internally at yourself, at patterns in your life that aren't healthy, that aren't good for you. Maybe they're toxic patterns, they're old patterns, and it tries to help you to heal, to release these things and to heal. Now, if you are someone that has been doing a lot of spiritual work for a while, it may not be so much that you are looking at your own patterns. It might be that you are now looking deeper into that you need to release ancestral patterns. You're looking to release, you are looking to heal things within the family. If you are the one that has kind of chosen this path and no one else does, it might actually be that you are the one to help heal a lot of those generational hurts. How do you go about that? That's up to you. That is not a question I can answer, unfortunately. That is something you have to figure out on your own terms. Also, because I was tasked with that myself during this time and I was given a direction, not quite sure how to start. So that's kind of where I am right now. Um, so it might be that you know there is something that you need to do, and there's going to be a lot of healing involved in it, down generational paths and family lines. You're just not quite sure how to get there and how to start. And if I ever figure that out, I will let you know. Because I'm not sure either. I was just directed to read. Because you're not talking about 2 or 3 generations back. You're not even talking about a couple 100 years back. You're talking thousands of years down the line where maybe you can't even get records anymore. So Godspeed to you if you have been tasked with that, because it's not an easy path to walk. It's just directed to read. Because you're not talking about 2 or 3 generations back. You're not even talking about a couple hundred years back. You're talking thousands of years down the line where maybe you can't even get records anymore. So, Godspeed to you if you have been tasked with that, because it's not an easy path to walk. So, Godspeed. Do what you can, do the best that you can, and when in doubt, always try to find teachers and mentors and people to help you. If you can't, put it out into the universe, and hopefully someone will cross your path, or maybe you'll stumble upon this video and it will help point you in a direction. I don't know what that direction is, but whatever works for you. Now, another thing is, I do want to make note too, if you're someone that does readings, if you mix modalities, maybe you are someone that mixes different practices together. Maybe you actually do astrology and you actually do astrological readings for people, and you can help guide them in some way. So that's another thing you can do, is there are people out there that do astrology readings. I've never looked into it. I have gone to readings, but it was at a spiritualist church, and it was a visiting it was a visiting minister, for lack of a better word, I guess, who did readings for whoever wanted to go, but they would just do natal charts, and based on your birthday, kind of would go into what was going on at the time. So if you really want that, they can be a little bit more expensive, because you're talking years and years of studying and learning, and I'm assuming accreditation for some of these things. So, but they do exist. They are out there. So if that is something that is of interest to you, you can always try and find someone who does astrology readings or reads birth charts or whatnot, if that appeals to you, and if you think that that will help you on your path to healing, or your path to releasing whatever hurts and trauma you might have from your past. Now, so that's literally what Pluto in retrograde does, is it makes you go internally and look to release these hurts, these pains, and to heal. In some articles it said to heal the inner child. Some it said to heal toxic traits and personalities. It's a manner of releasing and healing, and that was kind of the overarching thing. There wasn't a list of, like, with Venus in retrograde, it was finances and relationships and people popping back up, and confidence and beauty trends, and Mercury in retrograde, it's technology and contracts and communications. This isn't that. This is just you're shedding parts of yourself. And I know, so the best way I can explain this is that Scorpio is the only sign that I can think of that has 3 symbols. And it's the scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix, because it's kind of a path of enlightenment. It's shedding, it's rebirth, and it's growth. And usually the eagle and the phoenix represent a more enlightened person, or an enlightened Scorpio. So that's why with Pluto in retrograde, there's a lot of that healing, there's a lot of that enlightenment, there is a lot of that personal growth. And personal growth and healing are not easy. They are meant to be difficult. And when it comes to changing and shedding and evolving, there's a lot of growth and a lot of revisiting of things. It could be minor things in your life. It could be major things in your life. So it also depends on where you are in your journey. You could be going through a really huge overhaul. If you've been trying to heal and shed stuff along the way, it might be a lot of those lingering hurts, might be those lingering doubts and pains that you are revisiting in an attempt to release. So everyone's going to have a different path, and that's what's going to make this very interesting. And that is essentially what Pluto in retrograde is. It's that 6 months of healing, So, which is why I specifically mentioned people that do any kind of energy work or readings or whatnot, because you might actually have probably been getting a lot of people who are looking to find out what's going on. Why do I feel this way? How do I make myself better? Blah. Or it might even, especially with mediums or with diviners, you might be getting a lot of messages for people to shed, to let go, to work through fears, anxieties, and whatnot. So that's probably what's been going on, and it will start to end in in a couple weeks. So, you've got 2 more weeks of this, and then I think things will kind of start to get themselves sorted out until we go into Pluto and retrograde again in 2024. So you've got 6 months. Of course, then I think it does it again where it oscillates between Capricorn and Aquarius again and then settles completely into Aquarius. I think that's what it said. Now, this was another thing that I did kind of go back and forth with myself on about whether or not to include it, because it does mention the collective shift. So it's not just individuals, but it's a collective whole. So a society as a whole. And my problem is that the examples I could come up with, it's not political, but it's more fascinating how you are seeing a lot of these things come up. Okay, so what do I mean? So one of the things that it mentions is that you will see the rise in technology and people using technology in ways they've never thought of before, but also seeking ways to regulate it, which is fascinating because you are already starting to see the rumblings of this coming. And you've seen it coming, and probably, especially the last few months, you've seen the murmurs, or you've heard the murmurs and the rumbling from society as a whole that things need to be done in place. Especially, I think the best 2 examples are probably the writer and actor strike and the automotive strike, who are both two very different types of technology, but are fighting for protections and regulations for protection against technology to have it more regulated so that their jobs are not directly affected. So you are all kind of already starting to see that. You are seeing parents kind of, and even some companies starting to push back a little bit on social media and kind of the restrictions in place for younger children to help with mental health and whatnot. It mentioned, which is also fascinating, how string theory and physics will start to come into the limelight more for Aquarius, changes in medicine, a medical evolution in the next 20 years, quite possibly pulling off of a lot of the teachings out of ancient China and ancient India, for especially the Eastern healing modalities that went into like yoga and Chinese medicine. And you are starting to see some rumblings about the changes in the medical field. I don't think they've really picked up. It's just a kind of soft undercurrent in things that it's been mentioned and then it kind of disappears. But it's starting to churn up a little bit. Oh, hold on. I had this all written out. What were some of the others? And there was a push too, I believe, from big government back into the hands of the people, which was interesting because you're kind of starting to see that too, at least in the United States. And again, this isn't a political conversation. I'm trying to bring these things up so that you can take a collective step back in your mind and just kind of, what's the word? Oh no, what is the word? Unobtrusively? No. Observe. It's a type of observation. Oh, stuff and fluff. What is the word? objectively, there it is, so that you can objectively kind of observe and just take in. Now, you can call absolute BS on this, and I won't argue with you whether it's a coincidence or not, or whether it really is, the strings of astrology, the kind of cosmic puppet master, if you will, pulling the strings. I don't know. I don't know. Astrology has never been my thing. It was just kind of a fascinating note as I was reading through it, because I'm like, you really are kind of starting to see at least the shift into this. But it kind of started before. Some of them kind of started before, so I don't know if it really is attuned to astrology. I don't know. I don't know how that works, because so maybe it is just a bunch of BS. I don't know. But it's interesting to see how it's all playing out. It is kind of fascinating when you read the things that were to come up and you're already kind of seeing them reflected. It's like, well, that's interesting. So, yeah, I'm just going to kind of leave that there, because it's not a commentary on anything. It's just, it really is just an observation on my part, anyway. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how everything works out. It was fascinating, though, because I do know, although this has been on the books for a while, and I intend to do a video on it probably sometime in the new year, the VA healthcare system does have in place where veterans can get Reiki and massage therapy and acupuncture. Chiropractic care, a lot of insurance companies will pay for chiropractic care as long as it's an emergency. Maintenance, they don't usually cover. That's usually out of pocket. But you are starting to see some places that are incorporating already some of these kind of energetic, holistic methods into their healing modalities, so that you are treating the whole person and not just the physical ailments. But that's a different discussion and a different video for a different day. I will leave you with that for now to ponder, if you should so choose, or to just go about your day. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. And until we meet again, my friends, bye.